For centuries, people have been trying to find the Garden of Eden. Many archaeologists and scientists have searched for this biblical place. After many attempts and failures, one man and his team finally believe they have found it. Who is this explorer? Where did he find it? And what does it look like now? Get ready, because what he found might surprise you. Dr. Smith spent many years studying old texts and scrolls hinting at the Garden of Eden's location. His search led him to a cave in northern Iraq. Inside, he found underground tunnels. After days of exploring these tunnels, Dr. Smith and his team believe they discovered the Garden of Eden. They found a high waterfall surrounded by bright green plants and fruits, unlike anything they've seen before. These plants looked like the extinct ones described in the Bible. They also found very old objects that could have been there when the Garden of Eden existed. Interestingly, Dr. Smith isn't the only one who claims to have found the Garden of Eden. David Rohl also has a theory. He believes the garden was part of a large area mentioned in ancient Sumerian texts. According to Rohl, this place was north of Mesopotamia, beyond the Zagros Mountains, in a valley near the Sahand volcano, close to Tabriz. He found several geographical similarities and names that match the biblical description of the Garden of Eden, including the four rivers: Tigris, Euphrates, Gihon, Eris, and Wizan. Rohl also identified a mountain range he believes is the land of Cush and places he thinks correspond to the land of Nod. Another archaeologist, Joel Kramer, is on a quest to find the Garden of Eden. He focuses on locating the river Pishon mentioned in Genesis. Kramer believes that finding this river is key to discovering the Garden of Eden. His research led him to the southern Arabian Peninsula, a region rich in precious resources. Kramer noticed that the river Karun in Iran connects to the two rivers mentioned in the Bible, suggesting it might be the Gin from the scriptures. While two rivers mentioned in the Bible are easily identifiable and the third can be inferred, the river Pishon has been harder to locate. Kramer found a clue in Saudi Arabia, known for its gold mines. He believes the Hijaz Mountains in Saudi Arabia might be the key to finding the river Pishon and the Garden of Eden. He discovered non-native rocks in Jordan's Wadi Rum, likely from the distant Hijaz Mountains, indicating a past river connection. This supports his theory that the Garden of Eden might be in the southern Arabian Peninsula, near the Hijaz Mountains in Saudi Arabia. According to the Bible, the Garden of Eden was a perfect place with beautiful scenery and clear rivers. The Bible says that the Garden of Eden was in the east and was a place free from sin. Adam and Eve, the first humans, lived there happily with all kinds of animals. The garden was peaceful and colorful, with four rivers: Pishon, Gin, Tigris, and Euphrates. The weather was always perfect, like spring, with blooming flowers and ripe fruits. The garden had all kinds of beautiful and healthy trees, including the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Many people wonder where the Garden of Eden is. Some Christians believe it was a real place, while others think it symbolizes spiritual completeness. Despite many searches, no one has found its exact location. Some think it could be in the Middle East, Africa, or even the United States. The mystery remains unsolved. Some experts believe a natural disaster, like an earthquake or flood, destroyed it. Others think it's underwater now. One common theory is that it was in Mesopotamia, now part of Iraq, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers flow. Another theory suggests it was in Africa near the Nile River, as the Bible mentions rivers called Pishon and Gihon. Some believe these could be the Nile and its tributaries. Africa is also home to some of the oldest human remains. Dr. Smith's team thinks the garden is in northern Iraq, near Turkey and Iran. There are other theories too. Tarja Stortland believes it might be in Lebanon, connecting it to the forests mentioned in the Bible. Some early Mormon leaders claimed it was in Jackson County, Missouri. The Panacea Society thought it was in Bedford, England, while preacher L.V. Calloway suggested it was near the Apalachicola River in Florida. Some even think it might be in Jerusalem. In 1498, Christopher Columbus believed he had found paradise in the Americas. There's also speculation about a gate found in Israel that might pinpoint the garden's location. In Tel Lachish National Park, near Mount Hebron, a shrine from the 8th century BCE was found. This supports the biblical accounts of King Hezekiah's efforts to end local worship practices. The gate is the largest found in Israel from the First Temple era, indicating that Lachish was an important city. With all these different theories and no concrete evidence, some people believe the Garden of Eden is just a story. They think it symbolizes a lesson about obedience and finding peace. According to them, the story of Adam and Eve teaches that leaving Eden meant losing innocence. But we should remember that in the Bible, God not only created the garden, but also gave it a name. Just because we haven't found it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The prophets in the Bible talked about the Garden of Eden. Today's researchers and archaeologists aren't the first to discuss it. Even the prophets mentioned it in the Bible. The tree of life was in the center of the garden and is mentioned in Genesis and the book of Revelation. In Revelation, chapter 22, verses 1-3, Jesus talks about the tree of life again. This is the same tree that Adam was not allowed to eat from after he sinned, but will be available to us forever. Finding the Garden of Eden is important for several reasons. First, it would prove that the garden really existed, which has been a topic of stories and theories for a long time. Second, it could help us imagine the story of Adam and Eve in a new way, including where they went after leaving the garden. Recent discoveries have raised new questions about the story of Adam and Eve, prompting scholars to look more closely at the Bible. Finding the Garden of Eden could also teach us more about the people who lived there a long time ago. We might learn about the beginnings of farming and gardening. Some people believe we can locate the Garden of Eden by following the Bible's descriptions and comparing them to ancient landscapes. According to the Bible, a river flowed out of Eden, watered the garden, and then split into 4 rivers: Pishon, Gihon, Tigris, and Euphrates. Renowned Bible scholar Rashi suggests that Pishon is the Nile River, describing it as overflowing and irrigating Egypt. Another theory is that Pishon comes from the Hebrew word for flax, linking it to the flax industry in ancient Egypt. Ancient Egyptians mined gold and precious stones, especially in Nubia, which might mean that Havilah is along the Nile, possibly in Egypt or Sudan. Some people believe the Pishon River might be the Ganges River, which flows through India and Bangladesh into the Bay of Bengal. This idea matches what Yonatan ben Uzziel, who translated the Bible into Aramaic, said. He translated the land of Havilah as Hinki, an Aramaic word for India. Josephus, an ancient historian, thought the Pishon River was the Indus River, which flows through India. Parts of the Indus River connect to Havelian, located between Pakistan and Kashmir. The land of Kush is usually thought to be Ethiopia, and the Gihon River is considered to be the Blue Nile. The Blue Nile starts at Lake Tana in Ethiopia and joins the White Nile in Khartoum, Sudan, forming a single river that flows to Egypt. David Kimi, a 12th century Bible commentator, said that Gihon means to diverge, possibly because many smaller rivers branch off from the Blue Nile in Ethiopia. The third river, Haikal, is generally believed to be the Tigris River, which starts in southeastern Turkey, flows through Iraq, and empties into the Persian Gulf. In the Bible, Daniel mentioned standing by the banks of the Hiddekel River when he had one of his visions while living in Babylonia. Yonatan ben Uzziel translated Hiddekel into the Aramaic word Diglos, and today, the Tigris River is still called Dikal in Turkish and Digla in Arabic. According to this translation, Ashur refers to ancient Assyria, which was centered around the upper Tigris River. The fourth river, Perit, is the Euphrates River, which runs almost parallel to the Tigris. Together, these two rivers formed much of the Fertile Crescent, the cradle of civilization in ancient times. The name Euphrates comes from the Greek version of the Old Persian Euphratu and the Akkadian Paratu. Today, the river is called Al-Furat in Arabic. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers were essential in ancient history. They provided water for farming, transportation, and trade, supporting early civilizations. Mesopotamia, the region around these rivers, was home to some of the earliest human societies. It's amazing how the names of these rivers have stayed the same over thousands of years. The Euphrates River is mentioned later in God's promise to Abraham about the land of Israel. It is one of the borders of the Promised Land. We also know that at one time, Jewish civilization had spread so widely that members of the tribe of Reuben lived as far as the banks of the Euphrates River. While the identification of the Euphrates and Tigris rivers is straightforward, finding the locations of the other two rivers mentioned in the Bible is more challenging and still debated among scholars. The verse gives more details about the Pishon River, but the information is unclear, making it hard to identify its exact location. All three main Abrahamic religions tell stories about the ancient garden. In Jewish tradition, the Garden of Eden is seen as both a heavenly and an earthly place. The heavenly Garden of Eden is where the soul of a good person goes after they die. The earthly Garden of Eden is where God created Adam and Eve. Jewish tradition believes that all humans are descendants of Adam and Eve. According to Jewish law, as written in the Talmud, this garden was in Eden. The garden, also known as Gan in Hebrew, is described in the book of Genesis, the first book of the Jewish Torah and the Christian Bible. It was a perfect paradise where Adam and Eve did not feel pain, get sick, feel scared, or die until they disobeyed God's command. God told Adam and Eve not to eat fruit from the tree of knowledge. However, the devil, appearing as a snake, convinced Eve to eat the fruit. Some Jewish scholars think the snake represents humans' tendency to engage in self-destructive behavior. The snake told Eve that if she ate the fruit, she would not die but would know good and evil, just like God. Eve ate the fruit and then gave some to Adam, leading to her being blamed as the first sinner. When Adam and Eve ate the fruit, they suddenly became aware of their emotions and physical senses, a state of innocence where they previously did not know what was good or evil. Different religions have their own views on the Garden of Eden. Let's see what they say. In Islam, the Garden of Eden is called Jannat Adn, which means Gardens of Eden. It is part of heaven, the fourth level, and is described as a place of beautiful mansions, clean streams, and angels. The Quran refers to it simply as the garden, and mentions it many times. While it is seen as a special part of heaven, it is not always considered where Adam lived. The Quran only talks about one tree in this garden, called the tree of immortality, which never decays. Adam and Eve were told not to eat from it, but there is no mention of a tree of knowledge like in the Bible. Some people think the Garden of Eden is just a story and can't be found because the descriptions of the rivers, like the Pishon, Gihon, Tigris, and Euphrates, make it seem impossible to locate. Some scholars who study anthropology believe the story of Eden comes from earlier Mesopotamian myths. In ancient Sumer, now Iraq, gods were thought to have created city gardens to grow their own food. These gods were believed to need humans to do the work, so humans became their agricultural slaves. The Sumerians used the Tigris and Euphrates rivers for irrigation in these gardens. Over time, the gods got tired of maintaining these gardens and created humans to take over the work. Humans built canals, planted crops, and gave the produce to the gods. Unlike in the Abrahamic faiths where humans were created for love and companionship, Mesopotamian gods made humans to be their slaves. These gods did not give humans immortality or godlike powers, because they wanted humans to continue feeding them. The story in Genesis about the Garden of Eden differs from these Mesopotamian myths. It is based on many different ancient city gardens, not just one. Despite various theories and interpretations, one important truth remains: those who live righteously will one day eat from the tree of life forever, no matter where the garden is or if it is ever found. What do you think about the search for the Garden of Eden? Do you believe any of the explorers, like Dr. Smith, David Rohl, or Joel Kramer, have found it? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoy our content and want to support us, click the Super Thanks button below. Your support helps us share the journey of Jesus. Thanks for watching, and check out the next video on your screen.